Hello, ladies, and the few gentlemen that very often listen to the podcast for the working girl. It is my true pleasure and honor to have a conversation with this person tonight. And before I introduce him, I just want to say hello, Lincoln. Welcome.
Hello, my leader. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. As you can see, he's called me my leader. We'll go down into that and tell you why. But just by way of introduction, Mr. Lincoln Mali, who's my guest today, is an experienced financial services executive. His core expertise is with leadership and business management. Now, I mentioned business management quite, carelessly, but obviously there's a long value chain, within that space. And this is sales management, people management, customer service, and the entire payments ecosystem. He actually is a prolific, conference speaker. He's spoken, across the continent, and he's the founder of Leadership Conversations. I'm going to be dropping his social media handles so people who want to connect, can connect. And in these conferences, he speaks very often about his passion, for leadership, hence the founder of Leadership Conversations. And then he speaks on transformation and leadership change. He always calls all of us my leader. I have no idea. So my leader, welcome.
Thank you, my leader. Thank you, my leader. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you. Look, I like to often just go straight into it. And I have so many questions for you. So many. But I think, as they say, let's start from the very top. And I think is, why are you passionate about leadership? Why have you founded the Leadership Conversation? Why do I hear you speaking in Nigeria? It's about leadership. In South Africa, it's about leadership. In Kenya, it's about leadership. What is it? What is it with you? Or what is it about leadership and you?
I think, my leader, I was thrust into leadership roles at a very early age. And I really didn't understand the true impact of leadership. But over time, I realized how consequential leadership is, how impactful leadership is, and also how destructive leadership can be. And so over time, I became fascinated about what makes good leaders and what makes bad leaders. And I started to become a student of leadership. And I have become, that student all this time, passionate about knowing what makes leadership work and what a person needs to do to lead others towards a bigger goal. And over time, I have been blessed to learn from those I lead, from those who are my colleagues, and people that I've met on my journey. And I've found that this is one of the most misunderstood, yet consequential things that all of us have to deal with, either as a country, or as a continent, or as a business, or as a corporate. Who you have in charge matters. The decisions they make have an impact on us, or the lack of decisions they make may also have an impact on us. And so as time went on, I realized that my role and what I'm passionate about is to develop the next layer of leaders across the continent, with women leaders in particular, key focus. And so that's been my journey of leadership. So I keep on learning, and I keep on leading and learning at the same time.
Excellent. You say that with a lot of humility when you say I'm learning and I'm leading. But I think that there are two things I want to speak about, next with you. And is does leadership come naturally to you? And what is it with, your people skills? I think it's no secret, by now that you have amazing people skills. And guys, if you are listening to this, I just want to tell you what happened many years ago. I tell this story. I never tell you how to tell the story. So many years ago, Lincoln had come to Nigeria at the time. I was the head of marketing for the Nigerian arm of the business. And, he was going to, typically when he comes, he would go to far-reaching areas, of the country. And he had gone with a member of my team at the time to somewhere in the north. And, you know, he was speaking, I remember, at a university. And the girl who, you know, I had sent, I checked in with her, you know, to say, how is it going? She said, you know, I think we have a problem here. I said, what? She said, you know, they're all falling over him. I think if he asks them to do something bad, they will do. I hope nothing bad happens. They are also enamored. And, you know, I kept laughing and I said to her, oh, you don't know him? He's a real people's person. That's, you know, that's his thing. So I think my question is in twofold. One, do you think that leaders are born? Do you think that, you know, it's natural? Is it, you know, something we can learn? And I think, you know, what is it with your own heart for people? I'd like to hear you.
I think leadership can be learned. And I think all of us must keep developing ourselves to be better human beings. You become a better leader if you're a better human being. And many of the lessons of leadership we are actually taught at a very young age. It's just that we are not as attentive to those who are leading us or guiding us at that early age. Right. If I can just give you my own history, my own parents instilled in me, as I'm sure many of you, this sense of treating everybody with respect and dignity, regardless of where they come from, regardless of tribe, gender, race, age. That teaching has stayed with me for a long time. The other teachings we got, certainly in our church, certainly in our schools, was to always suspend judgment about others. Always seek to understand. Think about it. When you go to kindergarten, you know nobody. By the time you leave, you've got friends for life. When you go to your first school, you know nobody. Those teachers are there to guide you. My sports coaches taught me about working as part of a team, that it's important that the team wins. Then we look for man or woman of the match. So when I think about all these lessons, these were lessons that were instilled in me at a very early age. What happens is that when we get into positions of leadership or seniority, we abandon many of these because we want to move up, we want to be in charge. But when you think about it, many of the foundations were laid for us by those that came before us. The last thing I'd like to say as well is that many of the people who taught us, today, when you go visit home, your village or where you come from, you will see your teacher, your school principal, your priest, all those people that were part of your formative years. Look at their behavior when they see you, the pride in their eyes, the joy they have, what they will tell everybody you've become. They don't go and boast about the role they've played in your getting there. Their joy comes naturally because what they were there to do is to make you become the best. Now, what great lesson can we learn more than that? That when we are leaders, we are there to make others to be great and not for us to be, the ones who are shining, but the people that we need must be the ones who are shining. So for me, I found that I've learned a lot about leadership at an early age. I keep on learning more and I keep on learning from every experience that I find. So when I go into any country, I suspend judgment. I don't want to listen to what others tell me about that country. I want to experience that country myself. When I go to a region, I want to understand that country, that region. And what I find is that when I do that, my lens is clean. It's not clouded by prejudice. It's not clouded by bigotry. And I find that I'm able to see people rather than judge them first. And so that has been my experience. So I am a keen learner about leadership. And I advise everybody who can to learn more. Yes, to some people, it might come more naturally. But There is no substitute to hard work. There's no substitute to developing yourself further, understanding further, learning from your mistakes, and so on. So I would be a strong proponent of the fact that you have to keep on learning as a leader.
Look, I mean, we're supposed to be podcasting, but I'm taking notes, obviously, in the middle of the podcasting. but I think that there are two very powerful things, that have come out to me, and that is one, suspending judgment. And obviously, being someone who has experienced it, working with you in the past, I can say that your profession of what you have just said aligns with the things that, you have done. But I'd like to pick you up, obviously, on working as part of a team. Before, in your word, you then look for the man of the match. The reason I'm trying to unpack that is because when we're growing up, they're teaching us to be the star child. They're rewarding us for being the first in class. They're giving us this. Even through university, they're saying you got a 2-1, 2-2, this is your certificate. They call you to the stage. Then suddenly you come to the workforce and you are telling us that we should then think about the team before we think about ourselves. So how can we make that adjustment?
It's a very difficult one at two levels. At the first level, when we're all growing up, you are competing, yet you are part of a team. And it's the notion of giving your best, yet making sure that the team wins and succeeds. It was easier for me because I played sport. And my father and my coaches kept on saying to me, did the team win? They would always ask that question first. Then they asked me, how did you play? Right. So they kept on molding this thing in me, and I felt sometimes it was boring. But I also found out as I had my own children, I would now start to ask them those questions. How did the team do? How did the team do? And I started knowing all the players in the team. I would shout for all the players in the team. I would know all of them. Even when my child is substituted, I'm still screaming for the team. So this notion of team is so important, yet difficult. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. And you have to ask yourself, how big of a team player are you? And there's a simple test of looking at that. And you do it privately without anybody knowing. So if, for example, you play a sport where you can be on the reserve bench, and you depend on somebody else going out for you to get in, how much do you wish that other person gets injured or that other person is tired in order for you to get in? Because these are normal things. We're normal human beings. If your level of wish is very high, to a point where you wish that they go bad, or you wish that they go play badly, or they are injured, then you must know your journey will be harder to become a team player. If, on the other hand, yes, you do want to play, but you really do cheer for the team, yes, you do feel sad that you didn't play or you didn't play longer, your journey to become a team player will be easier. The same in a workplace. Are you so jealous when the other person is rewarded? Are you so jealous that you want to be the only one who's in the team? Do you want to be the person who's always on the podium? Do you want to only hear your voice? So you will know these things, and you can then work on yourself. And it's a journey. I found that journey for myself, and I became better as I was critiquing myself based on what I'd learned from my father and my coaches. The next phase comes when you are now a leader.
Right.
Because now, everything that you were doing to be number one actually goes even worse out of the window. Because your brilliance is actually so irrelevant if the team is not succeeding, if the team is not growing, if the team is not producing. So therefore, in this instance, you have to subjugate your own ambition, your own excitement to how is the team? How is the team feeling? Do you understand each member of the team? How can you make them succeed? This is even more difficult if you are leading in an environment where you are an expert. because it's not you who has to do this. It's the team who has to do this. And you have to get them to be the best.
Right.
And so you learn how to do that. Yes, in the beginning it's difficult. Sometimes people are too hard on themselves when they take their first management job. Understand you've just come from being the best sales team member. Now you're the sales manager, right? Or you were the best teacher, now you're the best principal. You're the principal. It's just how you change yourself. And you see over time, it becomes easier and easier. You know, to give another example, if you're not a mother, you can't imagine that your entire life will be about these kids and their success. Because you're not a mother at that point. But as soon as you become a mother, every pain that's felt by this person, everything you are it. But you still remain an individual person. You still do all the other things. But your emotions are so intertwined with what is happening to your children. So being a leader in that instance is the same as being a parent. You want your children to succeed as you want your staff or your team to succeed. And you will get the success. But you will get the success with the team success, not the other way around.
These are quite, oh my goodness, very powerful lessons. But I like the talk about self-assessment, and I think it's so powerful. And I like the fact that, you know, it's something you do with yourself and by yourself. So no one is judging you. You're the one that is saying, how badly do I want that player out? Do I want him to hurt himself, break his leg, fall down, die? But how badly do I want him? That's very, very powerful. I like that. Look, I think the other thing, I mean, also having worked with you and being given more than a couple of speaking opportunities and platforms, you know, by you on the continent, there's a program that you particularly designed and sponsored when your last place of work, you know, within the group. And, you know, I sat there and watched and listened. And look, I think that it occurred to me that you designed that program for women in Wamba Leadership Academy, Women's Leadership Academy, based on an insight. And so my question to you is, what was the insight, you know, driving that Women's Academy? Why did you decide, you know, that women, you know, needed to be handheld, you know, up to this leadership position?
There are organizational factors I'll talk about, and then there are things that I thought the women themselves need to kind of focus on. If I start with the organizational things, I think many organizations may have the best intentions, but they're not intentional. They are not driven to make women empowerment and women leadership a priority. So when women candidates are mentioned, they're mentioned in the 3 to 5 to 8 to 9 years time frame.
Yes.
Think, who's got that time? Society has moved on. And if you're saying people are not ready, let's make them ready. So it was driven by the sense of saying, I want to flood the organization with so many candidates that nobody can say there are no candidates. Because in all my career, most of the women leaders I've picked have been women. And they've succeeded. I don't see why everybody else can't see what I see. So I thought, let me find a way of flooding the organization with lots of women at all different grades who will learn from one another and see what's there. So that's the one part organizationally. Second, organizationally, I wanted people to see something that I also learned from you in your book, The Pressure Cooker, is that there's a jaundiced view by people who are not women about how women will multitask or not multitask. As you've shown in Pressure Cooker, it's not for somebody else outside to determine what women can balance or not balance.
True.
It's what women themselves will decide. How many balls will I have in the air? Which ones will I catch? Which ones I will not catch? So I wanted them to see that women can study, have this program, have a family, have a contribution in the church, contribution in the broader society, and be a wife, be a mom, do all of those things. That's their choice. So organizations could see that, because the way we designed the course, with a lot of support from my team, who were really just incredible. So that was the organizational piece. On the content itself, I wanted women to see the full spectrum of their lives, so that we can give them skills and talents across everything about their lives, not just the workplace, issues of confidence, issues of how to show up, branding, how to deal with disappointment, finding your voice, all of those kinds of things. I mean, to give you an example, one of the first things I say to many colleagues of mine I have who are women, and even friends and family members. If, for an example, we start this podcast and you make a mistake on the podcast, the traditional thing is to carry this mistake until the next podcast as a badge of shame, because I set up this thing and then it didn't work out. Meanwhile, a man with half your experience, a quarter of your expertise, right? And maybe a third of your intellect will make a mistake and bounce to the next thing with lots of confidence. I'm saying I wanted women to understand that a mistake is part of life. And some of the things I've learned from my wife and my friends and family members are things like wardrobe failure. Wardrobe failure happens to every woman alive.
Yes.
It's part of life. You'll go to this wonderful wedding and there's wardrobe failure. Something goes wrong. Do you know what? You find something and you're up there and you've moved on. Yes, you'll go occasionally worry about it. You know what moves you can't do and do. Yes. But you've moved on. But you don't now go home and hide. And so it's saying that let's build that resilience when there are stumbling blocks, when there are challenges, and so on. The last piece I wanted to really focus on is to create the kind of women leaders that really walk the talk on women leadership. I have this pain sometimes where we are on the one hand dealing with a macho, masculine, patriarchy culture.
Yes, we are.
Of men that we have to fight and win against. But then we have another thing where those women that have come in and are in leadership roles suddenly adopt a macho image. They want a male image of leadership.
Yes. Yes.
So now comes a situation where a woman has got a miscarriage as a team member. And now there's no difference between a man and a woman in looking after that situation. A woman is going through a divorce. Both a man and a woman are responding the same way, in a cold way. A woman can't have children, but she wants to have children. She's had a miscarriage. She's in an abusive relationship. So our society and our organizations have to be led by women because they have to bring this compassion. They have to bring this empathy. They have to bring this new way of leading, which I think that if you look at how the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda
Ardern, she's my favorite.
When you look at her and how she's managed a country, through compassion, through empathy, they've now been able to conquer COVID. You look at Angela Merkel, what is done in Germany, right? Contrast that with the problems we have with Trump and Boris, So I'm saying that we want this new leadership culture, which must be spearheaded by women, that shows that we don't have to be ugly and mean in a corporate.
Correct.
We can be caring. We can have empathy. And the last piece is that we wanted women to bring themselves to work and not to adopt any corporate persona or corporate mask for them to succeed. If you have to rock your stilettos to the bone.
Which I do.
As you do, my leader. As you do. So you want that kind of change. So we wanted leaders that will come from that to start to infuse into the corporate a different leadership culture, a more caring, a more compassionate, and more empathetic culture. So that we don't just say we've got 5 women in the executive, but is the corporate culture changed? If the corporate culture is not changed, those women are complicit. They are part of the corporate culture as we had it before. We must not just now count the number of women. We must say, has the corporate culture changed? And that's important.
So many very, important points. I think one of the strongest for me is about we bringing ourselves as women to work and balancing, the very strong masculine culture, given how many men there are in the workforce. And what you do say about empathy and feeling things, from that perspective it's so important. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I remember even in that class that you had, there's one of the ladies that I met, because obviously you asked me to come and speak about the pressure cooker. She just had a baby, Toby. Her baby was 4 months old. Yes. And she just, graduated, having spent over a year in that. And she was all gushy on Facebook about what she learned about confidence, what she learned, how she's ready to show up as a better person. So I think those sorts of investments in women are very great, but there's a higher level of investment in women I want to talk about. And that is sponsorship, sponsoring women. And just before I talk about that, I just want to let you know that I was in a lift one day and, we were having conversations, the lift that takes us up and down the floor, at work. And for some reason, your name came up, and unanimously, the ladies in the lift said, "Oh my God, he's such a sponsor of women. Don't you know? The CEO of this is a woman. He was the one who sponsored. The blah, blah, blah HOD of this is a woman. He blah, 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 blah on the board. It was a woman. It was him. So, and, I thought, okay, this is a man whose, profession of values or support aligns with his actions. But there are many men, who talk about sponsorship of women. There are many men who, would go for this women events and speak about supporting women. But in true practice, they're not sponsoring women. So how can we get more men to say, this is the woman, she's capable. And I'm not saying, sponsor someone who isn't capable. She's capable, please give her, the role. How can we get more men to sponsor women?
So it's a carrot and stick we have to apply. My fear is that we've done too much of the carrot. We have spoken to so many leaders. They all say the right things. In reality, not much is happening. So the stick for me is about calling people up on what they do. It's not what they say, it's what they do. So I always, in all of my conversations with many of my friends, colleagues, and others, I always ask, show me your leadership team, and then I'll know who you are. Don't tell me that you are working on this. Show me your leadership team. Show me your successors.
Yes.
Who is in your succession plan? Who is the next leader coming up to you? Who's got the best projects? Who have you invested for education? Show me those things. Then I'll know whether you mean it or not. I think that people have gotten away with so much for a long time. I think that now we must show up people for who they are, not what they say they are. Because if you can't show me a diverse team with a strong women team in 2021, 2, if you can't show me a strong pipeline of women, 3, if you can't show me a culture that changes and is more sensitive to women, 4, if you yourself are not learning from women, or if you're not having your voice heard, not during International Women's Month or Women's Month or whatever. No. Every day of the year is Women's Month. Where do you stand on those things? So I think that there is a lot of that. If I take an example, I'm moving into a new company. If I come in there and my first appointments are not women, then all I say is nice lip service. Because there are quality women everywhere. Or if I leave Standard Bank and I've not left a successor who's a capable woman, then it's just words. So I'm saying, let's call people up, both men and women. Show me your exco, then I'll tell you who you are. Show me your next 2-3 layers, and I'll show you who you are. So I think that's where we've got to get to, because we've been talking for a long time.
We have been.
We've been talking for a long time. So my view is we have to now show up people in terms of what they do. They keep on saying, no, there are plans. Oh, we're working on it. No.
You can't work on it forever. You definitely
can.
My
leader. No.
Cool stuff. Look, I've got 3 more questions, and obviously I'd like to keep you for longer. But look, I think it's important that, we learn all that we can from this conversation. So I'd like to ask you what your best leadership moments have been and what your worst leadership moments have been. I ask, the former only because we cannot let people think that, life is a walk in the park, or that life is without failures. So it'll be important to learn from you. Please go ahead, leader.
Let me start with my worst moment. We had a terrible retrenchment in 2010. And the organization retrenched 2,000 people. And in my area, which was the largest at the time, about 13,000 people, we were only able to retrench 35 people. But each one of those are human beings that have got a family. But the worst moment was one of the best people in my team was an executive who was about 8 months pregnant. And they had a very difficult pregnancy as a family. And obviously, as somebody in my team, I'd known everything about this pregnancy. And stress was the last thing she needed.
Right.
So now I needed to go and consult with her according to section number 189. So I remember calling her husband and saying, I don't think she should come to work. I'm prepared to come to the house and consult with her at the home. But she wasn't prepared. And I remember he said, do you think that she's going to listen to me or you? I said, unlikely she's going to listen to both of us. And when I called her, she said, I will be there for my team. Even if I'm there on a stretcher, I will be there and consult and make sure that my team is well looked after.
Right.
So, as you can imagine, from that moment, and for the next few weeks, I was on tenterhooks until she gave birth.
Right.
That is the lowest moment of my career.
Right.
And obviously, I tried to reach out after the baby was born, because obviously was very difficult. And she wasn't ready.
Right.
She wasn't ready for the conversation. And later on, probably about 6 or 8 months,
right,
we were able to connect
and
talk about what happened.
Right.
And she was able to see what happened from her own investigation. Because I think in her mind, there was something I could have done. And she herself applied her mind, did her own investigation, and found there was nothing I could do. And we've remained very close up to today. And she's one of the leading executives in one of the financial institutions.
Right.
So, again, it reinforced to me that everything we do at work has an impact on people at home.
True.
People go home and talk about us every day.
True.
The question is, what do they say?
True.
Good things or bad things, depending on our conduct. I guess the best leadership moments for me has always been every time somebody I've worked with, that I've journeyed with, succeeds either in their personal or professional life. A new car, getting married, publishing a book like you, being appointed to a board, all of those, just like my teachers, just like my parents, just like my priests, just like my school principals. When they see me, they are so overjoyed. So there is no way of really capturing the essence of leaders by just watching people that you've worked with grow and succeed. And if I were to give a particular moment where this got so captured, I was invited to speak at a graduation ceremony at the Henley Management College. And I had not met or seen many of the people I worked with in South Africa's branch network since the end of 2012.
Right.
This was, I think, end of 2019. So I had not seen them in about 7 years. And I sat there and I had just tears running down my cheeks, watching so many people I've known since they were tellers, they were team leaders, now graduating from the Henley Business School as managers, as branch managers. But it was dark, so they couldn't see me. I was just sitting there. Then came the moment where I needed to speak. And they heard my name. And something I can never forget ever in my life happened. And they just stood up in a graduation ceremony and did a standing ovation and started singing. I didn't know what to do. I mean, it's not a political party. It was not a political rally. And I had to start my speech in order to get them to keep quiet. But there is no way to capture that moment. And then the moments after, when I met their family members who were telling me about their journey and the role I would have played or been part of in their journey through the years. There is nothing, that defines what it is to lead than that. So those are the high moments in my life. So when I see people I've worked with just shine and become CEOs and become board members and do great things, I am just overjoyed.
I hear you. I mean, I think that one of the things worthy of note is the power in relationships. And everywhere we go, I mean, I know you did AMP in Harvard, Wharton, everywhere we go, every course that I've gone for, they always just tell us, relationship is the new currency. Relationship is the new currency. And I feel like sometimes people say this and they don't give context, and therefore people don't know practically how to hone those relationships and how to build them. I spoke at last year's Women's Summit, Forbes Women's Summit, and there was a CFO that was in one of the sessions, and I just started up a conversation with her. And as soon as I told her, where I work, she said, do you know, blah, blah, you must know him. Oh my goodness, he was so good to me. I worked as a member of his team, and it's interesting, even when I would go, in the course of my work to East Africa or to the other, the southern parts of Africa, it will be the same. Oh, Lincoln. Oh, Lincoln, blah, blah, blah. I go to the West. Oh, leader, And I remember, back then in Nigeria, going to a department. I had seen you, that I went to the department, and you were just walking in. You hadn't seen the team. And everybody unanimously screamed, leader. And I'm thinking, what's going on with this guy? So can you tell us, the practical ways? Because people say relationship is a new currency. Please tell us the everyday ways, to build these relationships.
I think that for me, I guess everybody I meet, I honor their humanity. It matters to me who they are as a human being, without any looking for gain, without any looking for a favor or some advantage. Just recognizing somebody. In most corporates, leaders are too important to greet. Just the importance of greeting everybody is just a first sign. Secondly, to acknowledge everybody I see and meet. Thirdly, to realize that our positions are so powerful. They can be used to uplift so many. Yet they can also be used to crush so many. So when I have an opportunity to uplift anyone by remembering their name, by remembering the conversation I have with them, by honoring who they are, it's just part of what I do. But to that person, it might be the last time they meet anybody of my level of seniority. But for me, just doing it all the time helps you, and it becomes second nature. So as I said, if you look at our churches, if you look at our families, if you look at how we're brought up at school, these things were part of us. If you just go back to those roots, it's easier to build these relationships. At church, you will have more relationships by just how you're greeting others and helping others. In a school where you are with other moms, you will build up relationship by striking up a conversation. In a corporate, you'll do the same. But somebody somewhere said, the higher you go, you mustn't do this. It's not done. I think that that's a wrong message. Let's keep on doing it. Let's keep on being approachable and accessible. For example, at work, I don't have an office. I don't have an office by choice because I have my phone. So I have 90% of my meetings I have in the canteen. Why? Because I want to be visible to everybody. So that somebody who wants to say something can say, he's talking to so-and-so. Then I can also reach out. Most people have got barriers because of our seniority. They say, I can't just send that person an email. People send me emails. And then I'm able to reach out or have a conversation. Sometimes people assume we're busy. It's for me to say I'm busy. And I might be busy now, but I might not be busy in a week's time. Or I might not be able to have a meeting, but I might take a call. I might not take a call, but I might have a text conversation. So there are many ways in which people find it easier when you are approachable. and the relationships just keep growing. And the expectations for people now are positive expectations rather than negative expectations because of leaders. So if I take Nigeria for an example, most people wouldn't know who are outside of Nigeria how large the country is. That it's got 36 provinces or states.
Yes.
And so for me, it mattered that did we have our flag in all of those provinces or all those states? And therefore, the planting of the flag could only be done by me physically being there, embodying the culture of the organization, selling the organization by how I behaved, how I came across, how I related to people. Over time, it became the expectation. And the organization's flag was now in people's hearts. That was the foundation I needed to do. I couldn't explain it to everybody why I had to do that. But I had to do it in that way so that most people can see. And then other leaders were now finding it easy to go to places, engage people, and narrow the boundaries between us.
Thank you. That's so powerful. That's quite a practical illustration of how you build relationships and you keep relationships going, and you use your position, your level, for the overall benefits of individuals, of overall benefits of selling a vision, of galvanizing people, of driving them towards the ultimate vision. Look, this podcast is listened to, by people from Nigeria, working, girls, career girls from Nigeria, from Kenya, from South Africa, is listened to by working girls from Ghana, from Botswana. So I'd like you to leave a message, for all of these ladies. And if you had maybe just 3 things to say to them, what will that be? What will these 3 things be? Even as we try to wrap up.
Thank you so much. I think the first is Africa needs a new dawn. We need new midwives for Africa's rebirth. Each and every one of us in our sphere of influence, we can do something to move Africa forward. But sometimes we want to do everything. We end up doing nothing. It's finding that niche for yourself that you are passionate about, knowledgeable about, got the resources for it, and say, what will I do to really make a difference, to make this continent to be very different for our children, for our generation. This is a very important message. The second message is for women to find their voice in all aspects of their lives. Our families, in our institutions, in our cultural institutions, in our corporates, in our countries. I think that the model of just men running this continent, running our corporates, running our institutions is not working. We need more women to step up and have a voice. In my own marriage, my wife has a voice. She has ambitions. She has her own goals, and she makes her own decisions. And therefore, I like to see her as a partner rather than being subjugated to me. She's not here to just marvel at my stories or be a spectator to my success.
Right.
We have to be a partnership. So therefore, women have this voice, and that voice must be heard. The third one is how we raise our kids. Let me start with the girl child. Many of the people on the call might have had mothers who raised them in a particular way because they came from a particular culture. We who are women today are having to raise our children for the future. I am raising two amazing young girls. I'm raising them to be opinionated, to be ambitious, to be well-groomed, to be highly educated, to stand up for themselves, and to challenge anything that doesn't make sense, and to be fiercely, fiercely independent. I want us to raise girl children to inherit the future we are starting to create.
Right.
Then we also have young men, the young boys. We have to raise our young boys to be aware of patriarchy from a very early age.
Sure.
To be aware of discrimination at a very young age. To be aware of prejudice against women at a very young age. To know how to work and treat women. I have a son. We have regular conversations. And he knows what are the red cards.
Flags, yes.
Red cards and red flags. Talking horribly about a woman in a WhatsApp group among his friends. Sharing pictures about a woman among friends. Talking derogatively about a woman. Treating women badly. Fighting with his sister and use physical, even if they're playing. These are things that are part because we have a society that has got gender-based violence against women and children. So we can't call out when the men are grown if we're not starting at an early level and give them a different sense. So those will be my three messages to women about the future.
And those are three powerful messages. So I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the podcast for The Working Girl. For those of you who are wondering, you can find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. His name is as is on all of those platforms, just Lincoln Mali. I'll also try and include it, on the cover of the podcast. But Leader, I honestly want to thank you. I think just thank you for, both walking the talk and also for reminding us that when the work of a leader is done, people say thank you to the team. So thank you so much, Leader. It has been my true pleasure and honor to have you this evening.
Thank you. And having people from Botswana, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria means the world to me. We've got to have more African conversations. So well done, my leader. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, leadership. Thank you.